Celtics Reddit podcast.
Back out to Smart. Fakes the pass all the time. Three. Bang! It's Williams screen. Lobs it up for Robert Williams.
Should he go? Jaylen Brown.
Tatum. Durant, the long reach. Tatum crossover pull-up jumper. It's good. 50 points for Jason Tatum.
Hello and welcome to the Celtics Reddit podcast. This is your very rare host, Wayne Spooney. I am rolling solo, at least from the Celtics Reddit side, but I've got a very special guest here with me. He's a now friend of the pod, as this is his second time on the podcast. I'm here with Matt Pennie of the Game Theory podcast. Pennie, how you doing tonight?
Great. Celtics, they're not up, but it's 1-1. It feels like we're up. We're riding some momentum, so life is good over here, just outside Boston. How are things with you? You're wearing a Celtics t-shirt, so you're clearly in the spirit as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beautiful day down here in Morgantown, West Virginia. You know, the birds were chirping. Celtics win.
Almost heaven. That's perfect.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah, our basketball team isn't anymore, but we'll actually get to an XWVU star freshman in a little bit, but so you said on the Game Theory pod, you were actually at game 2. Is that right?
I was, and I was, I don't want to say I was a bad fan, but with going to, throughout the year, I think I'm a good fan, but
Right.
From going to a lot of college games, and most Saturdays, Sundays, I'm kind of like tied by the TV, multi-screen or whatever, and obviously I keep tapping Celtics and watching, but I hadn't gone to the Garden. There was 2 or 3 times during the year where I couldn't do it. I went a few weeks ago for Disney on Ice with my son. But to go for an actual Celtics game and a playoff game that mattered, I got the late call to the bullpen about 2 p.m. One of my friends said, "Hey, I got a ticket. You want to go?" I said, "I need to clear with the boss." Text my wife, and she said, "Yeah, you're good." So luckily, a couple of my friends went too, and it was electric in there. It was awesome, and it's always great when you start a game up like 18-3. So you didn't need like a buzz because everyone was like going nuts anyway, and then to knock down some shots and Jaylen Brown to become Superman, that was fun to see in person.
Yeah, so like drunk level, are we talking like Marathon Monday, like pretty drunk, but everybody's got to work the next day? Or are we like full St. Patty's Day, somewhere in between?
Like me? No, the beers are $15.75, so I did one, and I'm like, I don't know, man, I need some cab fare to get home.
the crowd.
They were into it. They were, and we were looking for a watering hole before the game, and we found a parking spot, and everything was packed. So we just went to the arena early. We got inside at like 6:15 for a 7 o'clock tip, and it was packed. People were getting after it. Their time went on. So it wasn't quite the Marathon Monday at BC where it's like you do the night before, just power through and sleep on Monday night to Tuesday.
Right.
But it was probably like an 8.1 on the Marathon Monday level.
And that's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That sounds like a blast. I've never been to a playoff game, but I've had plenty of Garden experiences, but never a playoff game. So I'm very jealous. The last game I went to, I actually saw Tatum hang 50 in DC, and that was the opposite of an electric atmosphere. Yeah, it's a great game for a Celtics fan, but the atmosphere was like bizarre. The lights were super bright.
That's when like NBC Washington zooms in on like the 4 fans in the crowd wearing Celtic stuff, like waving the towel, like back to that guy again. He's going nuts.
All right. Anyway,
but enemy territory and doing that and having your star perform is always a nice feeling too.
It was a lot of fun.
It's worse walking out wearing the jersey of like the team that just lost by 30. I was also lucky enough. I went to the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl, and I'm wearing like my Patriots stuff. I'm like, this is going to be a bad walkout.
So bad.
And it turned. So I don't know. Maybe it's some type of Boston lucky charm there.
It turned is an all-time understatement about that game. But nonetheless, we should probably actually talk about game 2 here and what happened. All right, so we've got a Reddit comment here. I'll hit you with this one, and it's kind of a joke comment, so let me set the table for you. Actually, it was a post. User Jambato_5. What if we just double down on taking threes the next game? And he says we should shoot 65, 70, go full Rockets Harden era on them, Morey ball totally. But I ask you a slightly less insane question. Like, the Celtics have shot 53s in back-to-back games here.
Yeah.
How sustainable is it to shoot that many threes and have a successful offense, especially when you look at the Celtics? It's not like, you know, we're starting 5 Duncan Robinsons, right?
Right. Well, it's layered because there's also like the hot hand fallacy, like that doesn't exist. Like every shot is independent of itself. But if the shots are there based on ball movement, it wasn't like the Phoenix Suns of yesteryear was 7 seconds or less or 9 seconds or less. They want to get up and chuck it. It wasn't that. It was really good ball movement and getting clean looks. I never felt like, okay, Derek White brought it up, he advanced it, and Tatum chucked it. The next time we came down and Pritchard's on the wing, it was all like still nuanced. It was still like running stuff and getting like an even better look. So when you're taking 100 threes in 2 games or 97 threes in 2 games, but you're hitting at, I think they shot 43% last game. They made more threes last game than Milwaukee took. They made 20. Milwaukee took 18. You keep doing that as long as the offense allows you to do that, and you're not forcing it just to like get up threes for getting up threes' sake.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we've moved beyond the like you can't win with threes, right? The Warriors murdered that that opinion, I think, and there's something to a 3 going up off the catch, wide open after 3, 4, 5 passes.
Exactly.
I don't know what it is, but there's the goofy, like the ball has energy. It's true, man. Like I believe that those threes just go in more often. And that's how they were playing. I mean, they had that one. Well, actually, let me ask you this. They clearly found some gaps inside because they were moving the ball so well, shooting it so well. There was that one crazy play that gave me anxiety because we almost passed out the 24-second shot.
Oh, the
clock.
Horford, right? The
and
sneaky
then
one?
Tatum, Tatum hit Horford, and he like one movement laid it in. So how do we generate more of those close shots? Because Milwaukee, obviously, their entire defense is stacked up to stop that. And you can't make 7 passes and get a layup every time down against them. Like, do you think maybe more post-ups, or are we just like going to have to hit our threes and that's how we win this series?
I don't want to overthink it. Maybe a few more post-ups to start, and they ran some of the offense through Al Horford. And I talked about Grant Williams, and we talked about the Jays, and Al Horford's also, like, I know it's weird because he's older, but he, like, stirs the drink a lot of making that offense go.
Time.
He makes really smart decisions. Even if it's just like a shot fake and one dribble and you get a guy shifting, that it's the next pass, he takes a step to recover, you hit it opposite, and then you're moving, then you're playing basketball.
Yep.
So if the Celtics are hitting at 43%, I also think naturally that's going to open up with guys closing out hard to stop that because they're contested a lot more in game 1 than game 2. So if Milwaukee kind of overreacts to that, just organically, you're going to get some more open looks from the post. I don't think that based on a big win where they weren't as good in the second half, but they were a juggernaut in the first, that we completely rip up the game plan and say, let's get Robert Williams a post touch to start the game.
Right.
And I also wouldn't want to get Giannis going defensively too, because he can be also a guy that like he gets a block and you see in his head, like I'm ripping it off the rim for rebound. I'm pushing, I'm going downhill. I'm pump faking, I'm extending and scoring. Like, however we can slow him down and make that more of a half-court game, the better it's going to be for the Celtics too.
Yeah, and it seems like threes carry him off the rim a lot harder, and the Bucks have all these like huge dudes around the rim. So I almost feel like you almost may get more offensive rebounds and second chances if you're shooting a lot of threes than if you're getting blocked or if you miss a layup against this team. Giannis is going the other way. I mean, There's just no way to stop it. So at least with threes, there's sort of that randomness that it might go crazy off the rim and bounce to Derek White or something too. So yeah, I just think you're hitting on it. Like how they were playing defense, we're just going to have to shoot. I mean, there's no way around it really.
And the way it shook out too, and the last time I was on here it was like dire, right? It was like, do we trade Jaylen Brown? Do we trade Marcus Smart? And they didn't. They made a few micro moves, right? You move.
You called it though. You called the Derek White.
A little bit, but my point is like it was almost addition by subtraction too because it opened up more of the offense. Derek White didn't score last night, but he had I think 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and he was a big part on the floor. But I never thought he was going to shoot, but he can shoot, so it was still respected like a little bit. So when that guy came out to him, it was always like the hot potato one pass, and it wasn't like I don't know what to do. It's like he knew and processed that like the next pass to Jason Tatum. If a guy goes out on him, like he can also self-create and hit something to the mid-range. Jaylen Brown had 2 of those in the first half from like that right elbow, the one he made Grayson Allen fall. And I try not to. I'm a Boston fan. I try to be like net neutral. But when he fell over, I stood up and like put my hand up, like here we go, hit it. So we're still allowed to have some of those moments. I'm not in a press box. I didn't have a press pass. I was in Loge 11 or whatever, so I was able to just enjoy that too.
Yeah, and I will say about White too is when the ball's moving like that, the defense doesn't have time to think in their head like, oh, that's Derek White, I don't need to close out hard. Yeah. They're just scrambling and trying to get to him. And White is so good at like, it's almost as he catches it, he's driving.
Oh, it's already gone or something. Yeah, that, like the decision's made. And it's not like one of those, sometimes guys on both the front court and the back court, they predetermine what the move's going to be. It's like he sort of does that, but like on the fly, like intellectually speaking. It's not like, I'm going to go right and spin back. It's like he's already thinking, if I do that and that guy fakes, I'm going to spin and like hit the corner. And that's a benefit of having him out on the floor despite the scoring not being there. And it made up for, you miss Marcus Smart, you miss that defense down the other end, but you make up for it offensively and don't get some of those errant threes at times that Marcus Smart can shoot. The offense can be a lot smoother too.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I had no problems with the offense. I think we just keep firing away. And we're getting to the point with this defense, man. Like, 04 Pistons, 08 Celtics, early 90s Pistons, some team from the 70s I don't know, I'm not aware of, but that
some
I'm
Bob
sure had
Cousy team that someone get mad about that we didn't mention
Bill
on here as a
Russell
Celtics podcast. Yeah. How dare you not mention Casey Jones?
I know. I'm sorry.
No, but I think that, and that's a great point. I also just want to like pump the brakes on it too, because it's 1-1 and Milwaukee's really good and they're going to get a home court. And if they win by 20 on Saturday, I wouldn't say like, I can't believe this happened. You get through Milwaukee. I still think it's going to be 7 games that this is going to go, and you're not going to have these performances where Milwaukee shoots 3 for 18 from 3. Giannis was great, but he's slow to start, and some of those baskets he got late. I just want to pump the brakes because if you get through this team, right, you're likely running into also a buzzsaw that's either Phoenix or probably Golden State. I don't want to get too crazy, but like Phoenix is a master course on pick and rolls, and now Devin Booker is knocking down threes again, and you close out too hard on CP3, and here's DeAndre Ayton. He can take some threes now. So until we get there and stop those guys, I don't want to like anoint this as the Ben Wallace Pistons, but it's exciting. It's good to see the rotations almost like a college shell drill that like seems corny when you're doing it. It's like, oh yeah, we're closing out, everyone's together. But there's this interconnectedness that I didn't really envision early in the year. I don't know if just people have bought in more and Ime's gotten through to them, or they just said, hey, look, we're at a crossroads. We're going to stink, or we have the personnel to be really good. And they said, let's just go this way.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not that, you know, for good reason you didn't buy into it, I guess I'll say. And I didn't either. I mean, when we had you on last, it was the day after the RJ Barrett buzzer beater backboard goofiness. Yeah, it was really bad. And the team just looked I mean, this is like unrecognizable on the defensive end from that team. It was like the switch flipped. Even like a lot of credit goes to like the trade deadline and Schroeder getting out of here, and especially Cantor Freedom getting out of here. But they were actually playing pretty damn well right before the trade deadline too. So it really was just for whatever reason, man. Part of it I think was schedule, but this defense, it really reminds me of those 08 Celtics where they're just flying around. Everybody knows their job. And I think what's so powerful is like, who do you attack?
Yeah, there's not an easy out. I think I would have told you before the series, Grant Williams. And Grant Williams like was, I don't want to say the Giannis stopper, but he made him flustered. He like made him earn it, like all the baskets. And the Celtics were good in that, knowing some of Grant's limitations too, like sending the second guy, switching the next time, going under the other one. So Giannis was like constantly seeing different actions defensively. All right, so you're not doing him. They have this great defense. You have Defensive Player of the Year who was out. He didn't even play. He was on the bench. The Celtics played like 7 guys. So insert him back in the lineup, and those are good problems to have. And it just speaks to like next man up, kind of like Patriots mentality, that they were ready to step in, shorten the bench, and make stops without Smart able to play. Yeah,
and you've gone right into the next point I want to hit with you, and that is we've gone too long without mentioning this Grant Williams game. And so I got 2 Reddit comments that are totally rational and totally normal for you.
Reddit's normal, right? It's always like, sometimes I peek, I'm like, I should go to this site, but go ahead. What we got?
Yeah, no, you're doing yourself a favor not going there. But the sub is wonderful. We love it, obviously. Yes. We named our podcast after it. So.
I love it.
Yeah. So user Mr. Crensenzi says, is it me or is Grant Williams the final boss version of Semi Ojeleye and Yabusele on the older teams?
He's like the guy at the end of Streets of Rage too, on like Sega. Like that's the guy. It's Grant Williams wearing like a Batman mask, hitting threes, and just like you try to get by him, just like bodying up. It's like, what move is that? I don't know. It's a wall. Like trying to get through me.
I need Grant Williams to show up in like the M. Bison, like red and blue, like military outfit next game. But
yeah.
I've got
Goro
enough
from Mortal Kombat with forearms taking threes from half court.
He's playing defense like that.
Yeah, he's been everywhere, and he's outperformed what I thought, probably you thought. Even people I know that are really big Grant Williams fans who are both in the industry and not. I don't think you would ever say this was the projection when he was drafted. People were down on him the first few years. He was injured. He bounced around. You didn't know what his role was. I talked about this with Sam Vecini on Game Theory. Like, he didn't hit a three. Was it this year, the first 25 shots, or his rookie year? Rookie year. Yeah, and it was like, is this guy ever going to hit three? And now he's like this reliable, can't leave him open. He's going to knock it down, which is progression and growth, and it speaks to both his work ethic and the Celtics developmental system to get him there. Because I'm glad it's worked. I just didn't see this coming when he came out of Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, how could you? Didn't he shoot? He shot like 33% from three. A decent free throw shooter, but I mean, this is insane. He's like shooting relocation, step back pull-ups and stuff like that. I mean, it's just nutty, the stuff he's doing.
I just thought positionally, he was like a guy without a home, without a position. Yeah. Even when you talk positionless NBA, to me and with most people, is like, okay, that means 6'9" with a 7-foot wingspan who can just kind of play wherever. Right. Is he a 2? Tatum. Is he a 5? Like, whatever. Sure, Jason Tatum, 19 years old too. So for Grant Williams at 6'7", 240, just like by the eye test, it's like, how does this guy fit on an NBA floor guarding Giannis Antetokounmpo, who looks like he was built in like an NBA lab? Like, respectfully, like if you're building an NBA player, he probably looks and moves like Giannis. And Grant Williams found a way to neutralize him. He did, and it was still using his head and his brain, but sliding, bodying up, showing different looks. And it wasn't like, okay, let's put him in to use the 5 fouls. He was good defensively, and then he has 21 points on 6 of 9 from 3 down the other end. So if you do that as a two-way guy, and you're what option are you? I mean, we talked about what guy do you pick on defensively. Offensively, like you're marking or manning or shading on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to start, and then you're probably like going over like a little bit on Horford. So if he's like the 4th option out there, and that's the way he's playing, that just benefits the Celtics even more.
Yeah, and so at the end of I fancy myself a bit of a writer, Matt Pennie. You may not know that, but
I've read stuff.
You really?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Thanks, man. Awesome. Well, last year I wrote about Grant because he was really struggling, but at kind of the second half of last year, his net rating started getting good, and he stopped making shots, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Where are we going here? I need you to make shots to be good.
But exactly. But my whole point was like, it's a super thin line for a guy like that between he's so versatile, he can do all this stuff, or he's not quite good enough at anything to do anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
I do.
If you're a D- at everything, you're not an NBA player. But if you're like a C at everything, you're probably pretty valuable.
You're not a jack of all trades. You're a jack of no trades. But I like it as much as we joke about the comment. Like, this is sort of what I thought when they drafted Gershon Yabusele, like this is what he'd be. This is what Semi would be. And even Semi was billed more as like a shooter, and it didn't happen. And those guys, you can just bounce out of the league so quickly because you look at this draft class. There's plenty of guys who are 6'7", 6'8" with no real positions, like kind of shoot, kind of defend. They're a little bit of dime a dozen. So I'm happy it's clicked for him.
Yeah, and so Grant is up for an extension. I know people don't really want to hear off-season stuff here, but real quick, if you had to bet on what his extension looks like, because we had Forsberg on, and I said I'd give Grant 4 for 40 today.
Oh yeah, I think I would do that. But if he keeps playing like this, and I don't want to say it's one game because he's done it sort of throughout the playoffs, and he's played 28 to 30 minutes. He played 35 minutes last game because of the minutes crunch with Marcus Smart out. But there's going to be demand. I hope that it's still. Obviously, I hope he stays with Celtics. Let's be abundantly clear for that. I don't know what the cap number is when you've paid the 2 J's. Al Horford's hit. Robert Williams, you just extended. Derek White's not a small contract. So I don't know how that fits. I'm not a capologist. But I do. My wish would be that he knows that how he plays on both ends fits the best here. You go somewhere else, and the expectations, if you get 20 million, 18 million, whatever crazy number, and somebody could overpay, like it happens all the time, right? The expectation level for him to be like the number 2 guy or like a hard number 3 guy is going to be even more so than it is now. He doesn't necessarily like have that pressure. Just make open shots, play some defense, keep a simplified game within that like flow of the offense. When you become the focal point, just it's a different game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we'll see. Luckily, Horford comes off the books when Grant's extension would kick in. So it actually kind of, from a salary perspective, fits pretty nicely there. But regardless, we'll see. It's the playoffs. But even with
Horford too, right? Like, it was always said that last year or two is going to be dicey. Like 3 years ago, it's like, oh, he's injured. And now I think he's like the engine for this thing. I know he's not the most talented, but this is paying off. And we're seeing another kind of questionable contract with James Harden, and that's not. He's banged up. It takes time, but it's interesting to kind of like mirror those two against each other and say, like, how did we go right and they went wrong?
And like, is Horford overpaid? Yeah. I'm not sure by how much though.
Yeah.
Like how much?
That was also like the initial overpay before Philly overpaid him, right? Was like the domino of, we got to get Horford so people know that this is like a real thing. We'll overpay for him, and then more guys will come. And it's been a million trades since then, and this is like the kickback reunion tour, so let's not act like this is a linear movement. But hey, we're back as a happy family in Boston.
The band's back together, baby. All right, let's look at game three real quick. I know Celtics Jay is having Adam Taylor of Celtics blog on tomorrow. They'll probably dig in a little deeper, but we can touch on it real quick. I've got a Reddit comment here from Southern Upstate, and it's a post, and he says, "Thank you, Godsmack." And if that means nothing to you, Penny, it's because the reason this game has such a big, so many days in between game 2 and game 3 is because of HOG Fest in Milwaukee, and the headliner is Massachusetts band Godsmack.
Oh, lead singer Sully Erna, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
That's deep. And that was what was the lead? They had that MTV show. Was it Fear? When he was like, that was like the intro song was that. So thank you, Godsmack. I didn't know that it was a HOG Fest, and thank you, Reddit, for letting me know, and I appreciate the rest. The only kind of downfall is like, did that give Chris Middleton or like recovery time to get back?
But the other side of it is Marcus Smart is now coming out and saying he thinks he's going to play. So I think that's, hopefully Smart's much further along than Middleton, and we don't get any Middleton. Oh, do you really want to integrate Middleton in the middle of like one of the most intense and physical series in, the last couple of years for the Celtics, at least? I don't know. That's kind of a risky move, but they probably would just because he's so good.
Yeah, and they need floor spacing. They need guys to shoot threes, even if he's running for a three-point line. And the Celtics are very smart, and offensively they would hunt him down to just try to wear him out. But health is going to be first. If he's not 100% and they won a championship, I don't think he's going to really rush it back either.
Yeah, they can definitely compete next year too, probably the year after. So they're no rush. So one thing the Bucks have been doing that has been very unique in the NBA is starting 3 bigs.
Yeah.
And that lineup against the Celtics has a 60 offensive rating after 2 games, which is like me and Penny could go out there and maybe get to a 50 offensive rating. Maybe. Like 60 is god awful.
Yeah.
So do you think they adjust? You think they I don't know, bring in Grayson Allen to start or Pat Connaughton to start, or do you think they just stick with it? Because I believe the defense is pretty insane with those 3, though.
I could see just after game 2 trying to do like a little bit of minor tweak, inserting one of the guys in the starting lineup because it did come out so slow. And a lot of it was the Celtics shooting. It's not like they were killing them in the post or anything. But starting that extra big is also just giving Giannis a little bit of a breather defensively, and not that he takes plays off, but you don't get beat up as much down the defensive end. He can camp out on the wing, guard somebody else, switch a little bit more. But they're kind of dealt like the Chris Middleton thing, so they're dealing with it real time too. And Grayson Allen wasn't great. Like Pat Connaughton was actually sneaky, like 6 for 7 from the field during that game. So maybe he's like the guy they need offensively to get going to start too.
Grayson Allen's, I hate to say this, is going to pain me. He's kind of impressed me defensively, though, and I think he's probably a little better on that end than Pat. So it's a give and a take because Grayson Allen's so hot and cold offensively. Who the hell? They don't have a good answer. That's why they're starting Bobby Portis at the 3,
right.
I guess, right?
Yeah, he rolled out. I was like, what is that, Bobby Portis? Yeah, if you combine Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton, that's probably the answer. But unfortunately, I don't think they have those scientific capabilities yet.
Not yet.
Maybe at the Milwaukee HOG Fest. That's like the best thing. I'm glad I did this because like I'm going to research this as soon as we're done. That's great because everyone knows like, why is there so much time? Yeah, it's HOG Fest. How do you not know that? What's in the pod?
Hashtag HOG Fest, baby. Sounds like some UMass parties I went to back in the day.
Hold our hoe down and then HOG Fest.
Yeah, damn right. All right, we won't tell old war stories. Nobody wants to hear that from 2 30-year-old men.
That's another pod.
Yeah, exactly.
That one's a paywall.
Yeah. No one will pay for it, but regardless. So one thing that scares me, I'm asking you to calm my anxiety here, Pennie.
Okay.
At the end of the game, they got a lot of easy buckets using Giannis as a screener.
Yeah.
Where we clearly were just like, fuck it, Grayson, like go score. We don't care. We're not letting Giannis beat us at the end of the fourth quarter here. So how do you combat that? Like pre-switch it. We ran Tatum at the 2 for a little bit in game 2, and that was actually a really successful little run for that lineup, which is not something I can remember happening this season. So do you think maybe we go a little bigger or we just trap the ball handler and try to stop the pass to Giannis? I mean, what do you think we can do?
A little bit of all that. When there was that flagrant foul and Grayson Allen had the missed free throw, what I always look for is after a hard foul or yapping or whatever it made the guy's free throw line, the next time I touch the ball, I'm like, he's shooting. He's going because you're frustrated, like, I'm going to get mine now. And he did. He got a screen. That's when he went to the basket and finished. I would more so, and I was talking to one of my friends who's way more basketball savvy than I am. It's like, you almost, not that you want to let those guys do that, but I'd rather just like focus more on stopping Giannis and then deal with like everything else. Make sure he doesn't get hot. Make sure he doesn't get to the free throw line, has his 25, 12, and 6 and 3 blocks and slow him down, whatever you have to do, and then still defend and pre-switch and show the other guys different looks. But the number one thing always has to be stopping the star. And for that guy, I mean, he just makes him go. I mean, even when he gets downhill, it's like comical how he won't like cross over to his left. It's here, then it's back, and it's like Austin Powers like trying to turn the car in the hallway. Like that's just how he like goes to the rim. But it's like so hard to stop. And when he's getting like that head of steam in transition and everyone clogs the middle, that's when he starts spraying out the shooters. So like that's why Grant Williams was so good. We didn't let him get so many of those opportunities. And they did that inverted pick and roll where he was coming off stuff too to create. So just continue to show him different looks and close out to their shooters, and I think we'll be okay. The defense is so locked in that I also don't want to like put too much stock into like, what do we change? You still played a great game defensively. Third and fourth quarter, the wheels fell off a little bit. When you're up 25, 30 points, that just happens naturally too.
Yeah, and honestly, I thought a lot of it was fueled by missing shots and them getting out in transition too, and frankly, Giannis getting a pretty friendly whistle on some of these. But
well, that's why I like watching at home. Sometimes you miss it because like I knew they reviewed a lot of fouls, and I thought he got away with some. And then during timeouts, I'll scroll Twitter, and people are like going nuts, like outraged about some of the stuff. And I was like, look, we're up 20. Like, don't rock the boat. Let's just win the game and get out of here.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I can't help myself. I'm like Tommy, man. I grew up on Tommy Heinsohn. I can't.
I do too. This guy.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about this ref. Yeah, rest in peace. He was everybody's uncle, man. He was the best.
I know, he was. Him and Mike, dude. I'm going to be so sad when
me
Mike
too.
hangs
Mike
above.
Gorman, I just feel like he's going to do it forever.
I know, right? I hope he does. But anyway, before we move to your bread and butter, we're going to get into a little draft talk.
Yeah.
Give me a prediction on the series. What do you think? I started with season 6. I was going to stick to that until we lost that third game. So what do you think?
Going Celtics in 7. I am back on home court. Milwaukee's going to come back. It's going to be Haymaker on Saturday, post HOG Fest from the Bucks. I think we're going to get there. I think we're going to get their best game. I do. And the crowd's going to be ready to go. They've been there. They're battle tested. They're not going to shoot the way as poorly as they are. If they split there, then you're 2-2. You're trading fights, and I think Game 7, Celtics end up winning by like 7 or 8 points.
Love it. I'm not sure I can physically survive a 7-game series here, but as long as they're advancing.
Yeah.
So I reached out to you, schedules and stuff like that. and to get you on. And actually, the timing's perfect because in between us touching base and you coming on, the Celtics decided to schedule 4 workouts for draft prospects.
Which is great because I didn't even know until you told me. I was like, okay,
really?
great. Yeah. I mean, I knew the guys, but I didn't know they had the workout.
Right, yeah. And if anyone does not know your work, Pennie is very much a draft guy. It's what him and Sam focus on most in Game Theory Pod. For my money, you two are the best draft follows on Twitter by far.
Thank you, man.
Because you're normal human beings that are funny.
We try to be normal. The funny thing comes and goes, but we just try to be dudes.
Yeah, exactly. So I love your guys' coverage. You're basically the only 2 draft guys I follow, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. But I don't really dig in until the season's over because, it's not my thing. But so C's brought in 4 guys. All we've got is, I think it's the 53rd pick, which obviously is not a high value pick, but you can find dudes down there.
Always.
And there's a lot of undrafted guys in the league. Like Wes Matthews is playing his balls off and doing a pretty good job on both ends. He was undrafted. So you can't just throw away these late picks. And the Celtics brought in some guys. I think all these guys have a type, just like all their two-way guys did, and they're like bigger wing types. So I'm just gonna get your thoughts. This is where I'm gonna lean on you, Pennie, and give the Celtics Reddit listeners a little breakdown on who these guys are, what we should be looking for these guys. And the first person they brought in is actually an old WVU alumni. Well, half alumni. He transferred, the bastard. He did get redshirted after a decent freshman season, so it's a little weird.
Yeah, I know where we're going with this one.
Yeah, Teddy Allen, a.k.a. Teddy Buckets, New Mexico State. What's the breakdown on Teddy?
Well, he's a West Virginia alum. He's also an alum of 4 other schools. He's been to 5 schools in 5 years. Teddy is an electric watch. He is. And he was awesome for New Mexico State with almost 20 points per game during the season. They won an NCAA tournament game. He's also in the transfer portal, which is like a new wave of thing. Guys declare and say, hey, but if not, I'm not coming back to school. I'm going somewhere else. Great. Very, very tough to follow. He wants to be the man. He wants the ball in his hands, and he can really fill it up, but you have to live and die with that wild shot selection. So he needs more stability as a second-round guy that I'd feel comfortable taking because he's going to be a role player at best. And the way that he's such a high-volume shooter and the way he wants the ball in his hands is high usage, that doesn't always necessarily translate. He's going to have to answer some questions about the many transfers that he's had, and I guess another one coming up here. But an interesting name and somebody that could be a microwave scorer in the right situation.
Yeah, he's got talent.
Absolutely.
And
undeniable stuff.
Like he just does not want to buy in. At least that was my, meatball breakdown of Teddy when I watched him at WVU. But when he's hot, man, it's fun to watch.
Well, that's why the New Mexico State thing works. You go down a level and you're able to perform. Like, I don't know necessarily. Well, I do know. Bob Huggins isn't going to let you do that. Like, you're going to buy in, you're going to play defense, and you leave. That's Oscar Tshiebwe. It was National Player of the Year. It didn't work there. He said, hit the road. It's his way, and I admire that you're going to play this system, this style. Those guys don't work. They go into the next guy, and that just gives me some hesitation for Teddy Allen. How's that work in the NBA? Because it's more like that. You're going to go into a place that has 3 to 4 stars. At best, you're going to be 10th man. So you have to learn to live within what your expected role is.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Teddy has shown me nothing to indicate he's willing to play a role. So I would say we probably won't be seeing Teddy Buckets'
Probably
name.
not. But if he averages 25 points per game overseas, I'm not going to bat an eye either. That makes sense.
Oh, no. He feels like a EuroLeague star.
EuroLeague / Summer League. He also put up 20 games in Summer League in the right place. And people see, should have been a pro. You guys blew it. Did we?
The Josh Selby when he was Summer League MVP.
Josh Selby. He was so good in high school. That's another podcast too.
Yeah. Anyway, so next guy they brought in is a kind of goofy name dude from the Bryant Bulldogs, Peter Kiss.
Yeah, you're going with all the villains right now. He has gusto. He does, and that's the top of the scouting report on him. He filled it up during the year too. He averaged 25.2 points per game. He had 30 points in 8 of his last 10 games or something like that. Oof. But another volume guy. He's at Bryant. He's transferred. He's coming up on his 6th year of college, which I admire. I don't know if he's getting a master's degree, but it's like a combo pack of injury. He redshirted. Everyone got the COVID year wiped off, so he's still able to play. But he's a sub 30% shooter from 3, and for Bryant, they let him kind of do what he needed to, and that's how he got to not the playing game, but the first 4 of the NCAA tournament. They lost. Summer league guy, maybe see if it sticks, but I don't anticipate him getting drafted.
Yeah, I know nothing about him, but he's a 6'5" shooting guard, sub 30 from 3.
Yeah.
No thanks, not interested. All right, a name that I have not heard before at all is Lucas Williamson from Loyola Chicago. What's Lucas's deal here?
Has some fans, especially the analytics community too. Another 5-year of college guy, 6'4" guard. He shoots around 40% from 3, so that's a good thing. Has some handle and creation, so he can like make his own shot. It's not like he needs a ton of down screens and pin downs to get a look. He can go off the dribble, can step back. He was not great in the NCAA tournament. You don't want to judge a guy just on a game or two, but he had 4 points on 1 of 10 from the field, and he went cold from 3 overall during March. So if that's going to be your calling card, that's going to be figured out a little bit. Also an older guy outside of my top 60, so would have to earn his way in through a training camp.
Yeah, that doesn't sound super appealing to me. This last name, though, I just remember you and Sam talking about this guy at the beginning of the year quite a bit, and I actually sought out a couple of his games, and he's got some athletic ability, he's got some scoring talent, and that's Julian. When you hear me say this name, if you don't know who this guy is, you will never spell this correctly, but it's Julian Champagnie.
Correct.
For the St. John's Red Storm, and he just seems like he can shoot it a little bit. He's athletic. How off base am I?
No, you're good. And a twin brother. They're from New York. They played an Under Armour circuit, so I saw them play extensively from 16U onwards. I've seen the progression development, almost back-to-back seasons of 20 points per game. When he declared last year and did pre-draft, he had terrible measurements. He was very bad athletically. Just the verticality, the height, the wingspan didn't really like work out for what you'd think the archetype of that type of player is. But I really like his toughness. I do. He has a lot of that like bully ball drives, and he shoots 34% from 3. He makes it more of like an uphill climb, not being the shooter that like all these other guys that we're talking about here. And he takes 15 shots per game. Like St. John's needed to be really good. He did it with the scoring. They were middle of the pack team. I do like his rebounding for the position. He's a tough kid, but those measurables aren't like helping him sway him that favor. I had him in the 40s early in the year. I slid him down. He is in my top 60 just at the tail end of it. So he has a chance. I'm not like totally writing him off. Somebody that I think makes sense of these guys to be a potential pick at 53. Those other ones I'd be surprised. But yeah, maybe. That's a guy I'd happily put on my summer league roster and see if it works.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we're looking at here, right? Just summer league guys, and you never know. But when you hit one of these late picks, it is such a boon to your team, man. Like getting some guy in the 53rd pick that you lock into like $1 million a year for 4 years. I mean, look at Max Strus on the Heat. He's making like $1 million.
Max Strus, Austin Reeves for the Lakers started the end of the year. Yeah. He went undrafted. I'm just being such like a draft guy and such a Celtics fan. I want them to draft and keep the guy who they drafted. And they've made like some trades, and it's almost like I had the same reaction of, and being a New England-based, semi-based guy, I'm sure, did you see the Patriots video of, so Mac Jones had a bunch of players over his house. So they filmed it, and when Belichick traded down, like, what are we doing, man? And that's how I feel when the Celtics like take a draft and stash too. I'm like, Bakeran, like, what are we doing? Just take like Alonda's Williams from Wake Forest, take David Roddy from Colorado State, take somebody and just like try to develop them. Like, get me Austin Reeves. And this draft, and we'll know more. The draft lottery is May 17th of where the ping pong balls are going to land, and the early pull-out date of whatever's around there. There's a lot of freshmen right now who are unproven that are like on the fence. Do I go back to school? Do I declare for the draft? Am I going to get a promise from someone somewhere like that? If you can take a younger guy, because I don't think that the Celtics, as we see they're playing their best basketball of the year, it's not like, man, we're missing a shooter. Man, we're missing like a big. When they're healthy, that's a good 7-8 man rotation. You'd love to have a little bit more depth, maybe like a scorer off the bench, but they're not yearning for immediacy. So I'd be okay taking a freshman or sophomore and just hoping it develops over time.
Yeah, it looks like they're not targeting that. Unfortunately, all these guys are upperclassmen, some of which have been
all
in
our
school.
age. Like, hey, it's been in school 7 years. Is that right?
What?
A lot of people go to school for 7 years.
This dude graduated high school in 2007?
Yeah.
What?
But I do.
But I'm with you. And one thing I'll say is talent drain on great teams. We saw it right? That at one point we had Kyrie Irving, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford, all these young guys, Mook Morris, Terry Rozier, and then all of a sudden they're gone. So it's so helpful that if you just have prospects in the pipeline and you hit 1 out of every 3, that's basically what Ainge did to get Grant Williams and get Robert Williams. Yeah, he had his misses with Romeo. I refuse to call Aaron Nesmith a miss, but
to be determined.
Yeah. But
it's
looking that way.
And that's the beauty of the G League too. Like for a while it was the NBA D League. People thought that was like purgatory, like I'm making $20,000 a year.
Right.
But it's really been built up. And you mentioned Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier is a really good player. And after you got rid of him, it's like maybe that's the guy you keep. He was in Maine for a while. And I remember after the pick talking to people, the Celtics, like, what are we doing? They're like, no. He's really good. They really like him. They don't want to rush him along. And then he steps in and he's scary Terry. He's scoring 20 a game and gets a big payday somewhere else. But the process and the system has worked and has got better to be like a true minor league AAA where the call-ups are real. And there's the most call-ups ever this season from the G League to the NBA. And some of that was due to COVID and what have you, and just more flexibility between roster movement. But that's why the second round works, because those guys can go and actually play and get reps and not sit on the end of the bench and watch good games, watch playoff games, but you're not working on your own individual skill sets.
Yeah, and obviously, like Malik Fitz clearly has done, develop those bench celebrations, which is very important for 14th, 15th man. A couple more guys that I just kind of have my eye on as I'm just like, draft big wings. See what the hell happens. Just draft big wings late and pray, One guy, he's got a brother, and him and his brother Larry they sound like a plumber duo, like Pete and Larry Nance.
LLC.
Yeah. So, like Pete, I don't know. He's huge. He's got some ball skills. Like he's not nearly as athletic as his brother, but he's not like unathletic. What am I missing? Because he's like not on draft boards I've seen, or way deep in the second round. So do you have him up higher than that, or does he just have some severe weaknesses? Because I have not watched like 1 or 2 of his
I have
games.
him outside the top 60, but not that far beyond it. Sam Vecini, who's my podcasting partner, is a big Pete Nance fan. I think he has him maybe like 50s to 70s, somewhere in that area. And he called it out earlier. I think Pete's also in the transfer portal. So any guys we mentioned, just assume they're in the transfer portal or getting drafted. He averaged 15 and 7 this year. He has really good size at 6'10". It's sort of like a lesser version of Keegan Murray from Iowa, who's going 5th. It's like the discount version of that, so to say. So do you take value in taking him undrafted as opposed to Keegan 5th? I wouldn't, but Pete has a really nice touch. He can play inside, outside. He's comfortable making plays on the perimeter. Like you run some offense through him, whether it's pick and pop or out of the high post, do some dribble handoffs. He does have some versatility. The foot speed is going to need to improve defensively. Like who does he actually guard out there? And guys do adapt to their surroundings, as we've seen kind of Grant Williams and people doing it like that. So I don't want to write him off completely, but sort of some things to get over the hump there in order to be drafted and then get on a court for meaningful minutes.
I wonder if his move is to bulk up and become a center, because he's like a legit 6'10", isn't he?
Yeah, he's 6'10". It's a real 6'10". And people do kind of point to the development of his brother, and no one thought that he kind of be the player that he did, so maybe he's a late bloomer in a sense too. Yeah, because there has been some scouts who said what you did, like, what am I missing here? Why isn't this guy higher than what he is?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I'm in bed with a few scouts here. I'm not completely insane. Yeah. So 2 other guys, Gabe Brown of Michigan State, just seems like he could come in, like 12th man that could eat up innings throughout the season, almost like we did with Semi.
Yeah.
Like, just go out there, be kind of tough on defense. Maybe you go 2 for 5 from 3 once or twice a month, and it's like, hey, not bad for the 53rd pick.
That's the guy that eats all the minutes and you get to the playoffs. It's like, all right, man, you're gonna sit down there. But thank you for keeping us fresh. I wanted to like him more in the preseason before this year. He was somebody that I thought could project to be a second round guy, because I like a shot. He's been around 40% for 3 for 4 years, just teetering a little above, little below. He had 18 points in that elimination game, and they lost to Duke in the tournament. And that floor stretching is an asset, and it's a quick and high release. It's a compact form. It looks the right way. He can play fast. He can finish on the break. It's just inconsistency offensively. He had one stretch this year of 9 of 10 games with single-digit scoring when Michigan State was searching. They needed somebody to score. If they wanted Max Christie, who's a freshman, to score, they wanted him to step up. They wanted AJ Hogard, and just it didn't happen. So for him to have the inconsistency, and then the size. He's going to have to guard up the lineup to stay in the NBA. Mm-hmm. He doesn't rebound. He averaged under 4 rebounds per game, and this year and even lower the few years before that. So training camp, summer league, developmental guy. It's hard to find 6'10" guys that can shoot, but you need to rebound and defend to come off the bench and eat those minutes that you talked about too.
Or do one of them.
Just check one box. It doesn't have to be all 4. It's like one of those multiple choice questions on the test is like, check all that apply. It just has to be more than one. It can't just be one.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I know.
Those are always tricky too. I never got those right. Always. You got 2 of 3 right. It's like, this is a trap.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Yeah. Give me partial credit, damn it. Last guy, Kivaluma. As far as I know, he's kind of a highly skilled guy, but maybe not a defender. But what's your breakdown on Kivaluma? And I hope I'm pronouncing his name
it's Keve.
correctly.
I really liked him. I'm saying that it's the same thing for all these guys. I really liked him a year ago, and I thought he'd be a second-round guy last year's draft, and didn't necessarily have like the jump to get there. Another late bloomer. I like his size, just not the most. It's a little bit of everything, but not like enough to get me like too excited. It would be a name that I think, just based on the nature of how long it took him to get to where he is, he started playing basketball at a later age. His best basketball could be ahead of him. Like we might have not seen the optimized, maximized version of Keve Aluma yet, but them going away from a little bit offensively more this year than I thought they would at Virginia Tech just gave me some pause. I like him. My closing sentence for him, but like everyone else, see you in the summer, see you in Vegas. I hope you play well.
Yeah, well, on that note, we're going out with a bang here on this episode of Celtics Reddit Podcast. Perfect. But Matt Pennie, where can the people find you? Where can they get your work, your awesome work? Go subscribe to Game Theory Podcast for sure. It's a wonderful podcast, one of my favorites.
Yeah, thank you. So, Game Theory Podcast with Sam Vecini on The Athletic. We record once a week. We're doing a lot more stuff with the draft coming up here now, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's a mouthful. It's Sam Vecini. It's Game Theory with Sam Vecini on YouTube. We have the videos. We stream that as we record. We post those. So one of those two, and then I'm on Twitter at Matt_Pennie, and watching along for Celtics games in my living room right behind me. Probably not back at the Garden this year, but as many as I can go to, I'll be and watch and rooting along you, Mr. Spooney, for many high scores going forward for the next 2 weeks, whether it's your HOG Fest.
One day. That's my bucket list now, attending HOG Fest. Pennie, thank you so much, man. I really enjoyed it. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, man. Appreciate having me.